Hey everyone, welcome back to IIT and Education channel. Today we shall continue on the chapter Plants Propagation. In the last classes we have seen about propagation through seeds and how powerful is the seed structure and parts of the seed. Also about the germination process, about the dispersal of seeds, what are the agents of dispersal and how everything happens, right? I Okay, now we shall start with vegetative propagation. What is vegetative propagation? In the last class, I gave you a brief about it, right? Vegetative propagation means propagation through, yes, I can hear, be louder, roots, stems, leaves, and spores, right? So we won't need the seeds here. We can get this propagation done through plants, stems, leaves and spores. Okay, we shall look into it. Vegetative propagation is a type of reproduction in plants where new plants are produced from roots, stems, leaves or spores without the need for seeds. Okay, so here we won't need the seeds. This method allows plants to reproduce quickly and efficiently in favorable conditions, right? So even for this, the favorable conditions is must. Okay, whatever may be the type of propagation, be it propagation through seeds or vegetative propagation, the favorable conditions is must for the plant to reproduce properly. Okay, like plant to propagate or new plant to grow. Got it? Now, we shall look into root propagation. What is root propagation? Certain plants can grow new individuals from their roots. These plants have roots that contain stored food and buds. Okay, what is it? Certain plants grow new individuals from their roots. See, from their roots itself they can grow new plants. Okay, these plants have roots that contain stored food and buds. What are buds? Buds are the small lumps or nodes from which new shoots, leaves, flowers or even new plants can develop. Okay, under the suitable conditions, a piece of the root with a bud, what is it? A piece of the root with a bud can be planted in the soil and it will grow into a new plant. So a piece of root along with a bud has to be put in the soil, okay, so that you can get a new plant. Under, yes, you are shouting from there, I can hear. Under favorable conditions, this is a must. Okay, plants that propagate from roots are typically those that can store large amounts of energy in their roots. So not all the plants that have roots can use their roots for propagation or reproduction of another plant. You got it right? Only those plants where lots of amount of energy is stored in their roots, only that type of plants can use their roots to get the new plants, right? So what did I say here? Plants that propagate from roots are typically those that can store large amounts of energy in their roots. Only these type of plants can use the root propagation method to get the new plant. Okay, this energy helps fuel the growth of new plants. The process usually involves the following steps. So why is this energy is so important? Because only if this energy is there, that will fuel the growth of new plants. So let us see the steps involved in it. Okay, so you just understood, right? We are going out of this slide. Remember that for the root propagation, you have to take a piece of root that has a bud and has to be put in a soil, and not all the roots are capable enough to do this. What roots are suitable for this? The roots that will store large amounts of energy in their roots. The plants that store large amounts of energy in their roots. Only those, like these are like carrot. Okay, we will see in the next slide about the examples. So what is the process that is involved here? Let us see. Root division. A part of the root that contains a bud or a growth point is cut from the parent plant. So even this cutting from the parent plant has to be done so carefully, so that you should have root, along with that you should have bud. Okay, from this bud you will get the new growth, right? So bud is important along with the root. Why root? Root gives energy, and with from this bud the new plant arises, right? Next, planting. The cut root section is planted in suitable soil with proper water and nutrient conditions. So these are the proper conditions, right? Suitable soil, water, nutrients, and in this part, like if you put this part in these sort of conditions, then there is more probability that your development will grow into a plant. Okay. Next, the bud on the root starts developing into a shoot, eventually growing into a full plant. Okay, so the bud on the root starts developing into a shoot. Shoot means, what is shoot? Everything that is above the ground is called the shoot, right? So stem, leaves and all that. Now, what are the examples? Carrot. Although typically grown from seeds, carrots can propagate from root sections if buds are present. So, even though they are typically grown from the seeds, carrots can propagate even from the root sections, because as I have mentioned, they have lot of energy in the roots. That is the reason we even eat the carrots, right? So, if the buds are present, you can go for root propagation in the carrots. And how about the beetroots? Like carrots, beetroots can also develop new plants from the root cuttings with buds. Okay. Next, sweet potato. The roots of the sweet potato plant contain small buds that can give rise to new shoots. Okay, so carrot, beetroot, sweet potato and dahlia. Dahlia tubers can be divided and planted to grow new plants. Okay, so all these examples are so important for your competitive exams. They will ask you which of the following comes under the root propagation. Okay, so don't get confused, as carrot, beetroot, sweet potato, all these are roots that will store lots of energy in their roots. That is the reason we eat them. Okay, so please be careful, don't let go this easy question. Okay, so you understood everything about it, right? Next, what is a bud? Okay, as I have mentioned, from this bud you will get the new shoot, right? So, a bud is a small rounded lump found on various parts of the plant, such as the root, stem or leaf. This bud contains the necessary cells to develop into a new shoot, leaf, flower or even a new plant. In root propagation, the roots often store food, and when they contain buds, these buds act as a starting point for the new growth. So, the question will be, what will be the starting point for new growth in root propagation? So you may tend to answer it to be roots, right? Starting point for new growth in what? Root propagation. No, it's not. Wait, let me finish off this question, right? Starting point for new growth in root propagation, okay, is not roots. What is it? It is bud. Okay, so it means that though the energy is given by the roots, but the shoot will start developing from the bud. Okay, this is an important question and please don't leave this. Okay, this method of reproduction is advantageous. So for everything you should always think in terms of advantages and disadvantages. So we shall see what are the advantages of using this root propagation. It ensures that the new plant is genetically identical to the parent. Okay, so for the seeds, the resultant, it's like the, what do you call, the new plant need not be similar to the older plant, the parent plant. Okay, new plant need not be similar in the seeds propagation. But here, as we are using only one plant to grow another plant, right, in the seeds, for the formation of the seeds, it is that there may be two plants involved, or in some cases with one plant also. Okay, but for this root you are for sure using only one plant. So the resultant plant, the new plant, will be genetically identical to the parent. Okay, should always understand the minute differences that will make you be better in your exams. Okay, next, it allows for faster reproduction compared to seed germination. What is it? It allows for the faster reproduction compared to seed germination. It can be used for plants that do not produce viable seeds. Okay, so it can also be used for the plants that do not produce viable seeds, means the seeds that are useful for the plant propagation. Okay, for that plants which cannot do the seeds production, viable seeds, viable means useful. Okay, it allows for faster reproduction. As I have mentioned, this will be faster as compared to the seed germination process. Okay, so this is all about the root propagation, right? You remember all the points, right? Next, now we are done with root propagation. Now we will look into leaves propagation, that is getting a new plant through the leaves. Okay, you remember one thing, neither all roots nor all the leaves are capable to give rise to a new plant, right? So only some leaves have this remarkable ability to produce new plants from their leaves. In this process, leaves either develop buds directly or grow new plants at specific points like the edges or tips. So what happens? The buds will develop, which eventually grow into small plants, and this gets detached and they grow as independent plants. Okay, so these growth will happen only at some specific points, not on all through the leaf. They will be near the edges or tips like that. Okay, these new plants eventually detach and grow independently. Okay, so bryophyllum, also known as what? Air plant. Bryophyllum has small buds on the edges of its leaves. Small buds on edges of its leaves. These buds develop into tiny plantlets that drop off and grow into new plants when they touch the ground, right? When they touch the ground, they just develop into new plants. Next, begonia. In some species, leaf cuttings can be used to grow new plants. When a piece of the leaf is planted in the soil, roots and shoots emerge from the cut veins. What is it? So, in some species like begonia, you can use these leaf cuttings and you can put it in the soil. Okay. African violet. A single leaf cutting can grow into a new plant when placed in soil or water. See, this is so easy, right? Just pick up a leaf and put it in the soil. Then automatically you will get a new plant. See how nice the nature is, right? So next is spore propagation. It is a process used by non-flowering plants like ferns and mosses. Unlike seeds, the spores are tiny reproductive units that develop into new plants under the right conditions. Right? Seeds you can easily see with your eye, but the spores are so tiny that you can barely see them. Okay? So as they are tiny, you can understand that they will be of light weight and they can travel long distance, right? Next, ferns produce spores in small structures called as sporangia. See, first thing, let me make it clear. Okay, what is important here? That non-flowering plants like ferns and mosses use the spore propagation. And all these things, that sporangia, fronds, prothalia and all these, they are just to give you information, to make you more knowledgeable. Okay, you need not think that, oh, I should learn all these are like so different words, how should I do? No, nothing. Okay, just learn. If you can remember, it's well and good, otherwise just leave it. I want you to understand the process, and the important thing is that you should know about the ferns and mosses. Okay, so ferns produce spores in small structures called as sporangia, typically found on the underside of their leaves. Okay, when the spores are mature, they are released into the environment. If they land in a suitable spot with moisture and shade, they grow into small hat-shaped plants called prothalia, which then develop into full-grown ferns. Okay, so this is about the ferns. What is it? These ferns will develop spores in sporangia, right, which will be on the underside of their fronds. And when the spores are released, and if they fall in some suitable climate or like suitable conditions, they develop into heart-shaped plants called as prothalia, which eventually develop into full-grown ferns. Okay, mosses. Mosses reproduce using spores contained in capsules. Okay, so you can find these in the capsules at the tips of their stalks. When the capsule releases the spores, they settle in moist areas and grow into new moss plants. Okay, when the capsule releases the spores, again if they land up in favorable conditions, then it will grow into new moss plants. Advantages of spore propagation. Spores are lightweight and can be carried long distances by wind and water. As they are light in weight, they can travel long distance, and if they find favorable conditions, not climate, okay, favorable conditions there, then they will grow into new plants. Next, plants that reproduce through spores do not need seeds or flowers. What is it? Plants that reproduce through spores do not need seeds or flowers. They can directly use their spores to become a new plant. Next, this method allows plants to colonize new areas, especially in shady or damp environments. This is so important. See, seeds will be of less number, right? But the spores are so tiny, the structures, okay, so they can happily uh, end up in the area. So many can end up in the area at the same time, and so they can colonize. It means that they can occupy the space around. If it is shady, or in the case of shady or damp environments, they can happily develop new plants, so many new plants in that area. It means they can occupy the full land. So if you have one plant that has spores propagation in it, okay, so you can expect that the entire area will soon be covered with that type of plant, right? So spore propagation has its own merits and demerits. Okay, if you want that type of plant, then this property of colonizing new areas will be useful for you. Otherwise, it will be disadvantageous to you, right? Okay. Next, propagation through stems. This one, it's lengthy, okay, so I don't want to get into this right now. We will see it in the next video. For now, it's you have covered so many important topics. Please revise it, watch it twice, I say thrice too, because these are all important concepts, okay. And every time in every class you go, the plants chapter will be a lengthy one, okay. So be prepared for that, and you will have another video. So overall you will have 4 videos for plant life, okay. Later I'll go for agriculture and some other topics, right? Bye, see you.